I'm Greg Gumbel in New York. Coming up on Capital One Tournament Central, 2 more automatic bids to the NCAA tournament have been secured. We'll weigh in after this word from your local station.
This is Capital One Tournament Central.
Michigan State advances to the Big Ten final. They defeat Wisconsin today, 67-55. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Capital One Tournament Central. Greg Gumbel, Clark Kellogg, Seth Davis. No matter how well-intentioned the Badgers might have been today, Michigan State had that steady, constant coming at you that really left no room for Wisconsin.
Agree with you 100%. Freeze, tease, reebs, and threes.
Write that down.
And Michigan State won 3 of those 4 categories. Free throws, three-point shooting, rebounds, and turnovers. The only one Michigan State lost was the turnover battle. They had 15, and Wisconsin only had 5. But shot making covers up a lot of other flaws, and Kenny Goins was fantastic. He knocked down 3 triples, and that stroke has been sizzling of late for KG.
Freeze, please.
No, I wrote it down. Freeze, freeze, reebs, and tease.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. Distilling it down. And look, got to give Nick Ward credit for 4 fouls in 11 minutes. Hopefully moving forward for him. I think a lot of that has to do with fatigue. When you're tired, you're going to be a little bit more lazy with your defense. And, you know, it's amazing. Cassius Winston, 21 points and 6 assists with all of these injuries. He's been battling this for a while. He's logged a lot of minutes, as you well know. And you just have to wonder about him moving forward. He's the most important player on this team. And you really want him to be 100% healthy for that mad dash to the title. But certainly he's not going to have any days off to get healthy. They're going to have to manage as best they can.
And didn't you say Kenny Goins was as big a reason for this win as that?
Yeah, for sure. He's been playing outstanding. He's been excellent defensively and rebounding all his career, and now he's started to find that 3-point shot. All the work he's put into it starting to really pay dividends here late.
You probably wonder why I ask. Speaking of Kenny Goins, it's time for the Capital One Venture Card double-double of the day. He registered his 6th double-double of the season, 13 points and 12 rebounds in the Spartan win over the Badgers. Well, coming up next, our second Big Ten semifinal matchup features Minnesota taking on Michigan. The Golden Gophers upset second seed Purdue yesterday, while the Wolverines are seeking their 3rd straight Big Ten final appearance. We'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll get you caught up on the highlights from other conference tournaments today. Don't go away.
Goes up through contact, got it to go, drew the foul, count it. Step back 3 for the win, no good. The Gophers are going to semifinals Saturday.
I think we're growing. I think that was our most complete performance versus Purdue. We're obviously looking forward to the next challenge.
Inside, here's Pozdakis, and 1. Michigan blasts Iowa, and they're going to the semifinals.
We got to limit their second chance points because they do a great job of just getting second opportunities. And Murphy's as good a rebounder as there anywhere in the country.
You know, everybody talks about Michigan offensively. They're as good defensively as any team will face.
They're playing for a championship. It's going to be a heck of a game.
Coach Pitino, Coach Beeline getting their respective teams ready for their Big Ten semifinal showdown. Minnesota and Michigan coming up next here on CBS. Now, to the highlights, beginning with the America East Championship. Seth.
I thought UMBC's NCAA tournament first-round streak would never end, but Vermont Catamounts are there to kill the dream. You can see Anthony Lamb got that dunk and grabbing the nice putback. This was Vermont from start to finish, wire to wire. Unlike last year when they lost at home to UMBC, they were the #1 seed in that league. They won the league tournament. They're going to be a tough out in the first round.
Meanwhile, the MEAC Championship in Norfolk, Virginia. Clark?
Is that me? It is me. I watched that game. Tight one defensively. And the Eagles fighting off the Norfolk State Spartans. They did it with outstanding defense. Big follow here late in the ballgame, midway through the second half. And then as the clock wound down, Mostadi Pitt tries to score the 3. It doesn't go. The 3rd straight MEAC title for LaVelle Moulton and the North Carolina Central Eagles. Congratulations.
All right, this list is getting bigger. A look at the team that have already punched their tickets to the NCAA tournament, and it continues to grow. Anybody on there who shouldn't be there?
No, you earn your way. Yeah, that's right. You earn your way here in this particular circumstance. And Seth talked about Vermont being a dangerous team, and we've all seen what Wofford has been able to do all season long. That team, too, one to keep an eye on, folks, when you're filling out your bracket.
A lot of tough little guys on the list.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look for the dream stealers, dream killers, teams that would not otherwise get an at-large bid winning their conference tournament. Normally, we look to the championship game, which we have in the Mountain West, but we also have a semifinal in the American featuring Wichita State and also Memphis.
Right.
And that tournament is in Memphis. FedEx Forum is going to be hopping when they take on Houston. That's a team that if I'm a bubble team, I might be rooting against pretty hard today because you don't want to see them in the final tomorrow on their own home court.
All right, let's check in on other conference tournament games now. Ivy League semis, Penn against top seed Harvard. Seth?
Oh, is that me? Okay, Devin Goodman going to go grab the rebound coast to coast. And Penn takes the lead. Now, this is being hosted at Yale, even though Harvard is the top seed. We're in large form here. Bryce Aiken, the little fellow for Harvard, he came through today and drains the lane for the layup as Harvard wins it by 6. They advance to the championship game. As the #1 seed, they could play Yale tomorrow and be at a home court disadvantage, a road game at Yale, but certainly Harvard's going to be a tough act.
All right, Clark, this is the SEC semi. Clark, Florida against Auburn. Clark.
And this was tight throughout, particularly here in the second half. There you see Bryce Brown. He's got a really nice stroke. Sprays one from there. Keparius Hayes right to the rack. Auburn up 1. Then Jared Harper, little fella, puts him up 4. 3-point lead here. There's Andrew Nembhard trying to get it up and down. No go, no whistle. Ball game over. Auburn to the championship game of the SEC tomorrow.
All right, Seth, what about the Atlantic 10 semifinals in Brooklyn? #8 seed Rhode Island, #4 seed St. Bonnie.
Well, again, VCU being a probable at-large team out of the Atlantic 10, they have lost, so there will be 2 teams coming out of this conference, and St. Bonaventure is going to try to be one of them. You're going to see Ladarian Griffin getting the slam, and the Bonnies were terrific today. Kyle Lofton had 23 points, and St. Bonaventure was 21 for 22 from the foul line, only 9 turnovers. So Freeze and teams,
talk to me,
they were
Seth.
on their game, Log.
Talk to me. That's how you do it, Greg. You take care of rebounding, free throw shooting, turnovers, and three-point and free throw shooting. You win a couple of those areas. Usually you win 2 or 3 of those areas in most games. You're going to come out on top at the end of the day.
Okay, as we watch these games progress, you spoke highly of Auburn from time to time. You spoke highly of Harvard from time to time. Which one are any of these teams the real deal?
Well, Auburn's solid. I mean, they've had kind of an up-and-down season, but they seem to be hitting their stride right now, and the guards are terrific. I mean, Bryce Brown and Jared Harper are a dynamic duo, and you saw it on display with shot-making and clutch plays when they needed it.
Yeah, that was a good news in beating Florida. The bad news is they're going to get Kentucky or Tennessee tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to watching those two play their rubber match after splitting the regular season. I would expect it to be a close contest because in both of the first 2 games on the opposite home courts, the home team won by significant margins. That's not going to happen today.
Sneeze, geez, Louise.
yeah.
I wrote it down.
Keep rhyming. Keep working on it.
We'll get an update on the selection process from NCAA Senior Vice President of Men's Basketball, Dan Gavitt. But first, more from the Infinity Test Drive and its continued dedication to coaches versus cancer.
This is Capital One Tournament Central.
Guess what? The clock is ticking. We take a peek inside that room where the NCAA Selection Committee is mulling over all the pieces to the NCAA tournament puzzle just down the road from our studio here in New York. And with the committee members hard at work, we're pleased to have a guy who's not all that hard at work, Dan Gavitt, NCAA Senior Vice President of Men's Basketball. With this week, with all the rash of #1 seeds in the tournaments falling, what does that do in the committee room? Did everybody go up to the board and erase it and start all over?
Chaos, total chaos. No, the committee's done a great job preparing for this week all year since November. So they came in, well prepared with their homework, and it is a process that evaluates teams over the course of the entire season, and we remind them of that. They remind themselves of that this week in particular.
Was that a changing process though, as things happen along the way?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly there's been some things that have happened this week. Player availability being one of them, of some major players that could have impact on where teams are seated in particular, and we've been keeping a close eye on those things.
Dan, as we go through the last part of this process, it feels to me like this year has a number of non-power conference teams that may be really worthy of at-large considerations. Is that the sense that the committee is feeling as well? Is that what's going on?
I think that's accurate, Clark. Yeah, I mean, I think compared to the last few years, there are some really excellent teams outside of the Power 6 conferences that have, that have proven that over the course of the whole season. And because of that, depending on the way conference tournaments may go today or tomorrow, you could have as many as 4 or 6 non-Power 6 conferences with multiple bids in this year's field.
Wow, and that would be a change from recent years for sure, right?
Yeah. But I don't think it's a change of philosophy. It's just the fact that there are some really good teams that have, proven themselves over the course of the whole season. Together with some, some teams maybe in those Power 6 conferences that haven't maybe distinguished themselves quite to the same level as the past. And so the comparisons are better.
Yeah, any clear connection between the new NET and those teams that we could make, that we could bridge the gap in terms of comparison?
Not necessarily, because some of those teams we're talking about have very high net rankings, for example. But when you do compare from a seeding perspective, in particular, resumes of a Power 6 team and a mid-major team, when you're looking at resumes that really don't look the same, they're apples to oranges, the metrics can help, I think, the committee in the seeding process in particular to try to get that right.
See, along those lines, and I know this is kind of an unanswerable question, which is why I like to ask them, is if we did have the RPI, because to me it's about the bracket, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that those of us or those folks out there who really study this closely would be able to say, if the RPI were still in place, there might be one or even more than one teams that's in the tournament versus not being in the tournament? Do you think it's going to be that much of a dramatic difference for even if it's 1 or 2 teams?
I don't think so necessarily, Seth. I think that there's always been more emphasis placed on what a team's individual ranking is than what the rankings are of their opponents. The net ranking does have an impact, just like the RPI did, on the quality of your opponents and what you did against that schedule. And so that being a little different this year with the predictive nature of the net ranking, some of those teams, I think, are in different places, in different quadrants than they would have been in the past. But I think that's a good thing. The net ranking system is more contemporary, it's more sophisticated, and I think does a better job of evaluating teams 1 through 353.
Real quickly, are you in direct contact with schools in terms of getting updates on injury situations?
Yes, either schools or conferences, and there have been many of note this year in particular, certainly Zion Williams at Williamson, as well as Reed Travis and Nick Ward and many other players. It's been good for the committee to be able to see them firsthand and how they're doing now that they're back together with their teams. But there's been other injuries this weekend we need to monitor for next week.
Dan, thanks for the update. We'll let you get back to work.
Good to be with you guys.
Appreciate it. That'll do it for us for now on Capital One Tournament Central. Our second Big Ten semifinal between Minnesota and Michigan coming up next. See you back here at the half. Enjoy the game, everybody.